Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. It is my absolute privilege to be here and deliver tonight's keynote. Thank you to the organizers for giving me this privilege. I also know I'm the last thing standing between you and a very well-deserved beer at the end of a long and hopefully productive day. So I'm going to do my best to keep this short and sweet and hopefully as relevant as possible to all of you in the room. I work for a company that prides itself with its heritage. And we have been in the business of manufacturing rotating equipment since 1854. We were founded in Scotland, and we're very proud of that. And through the decades, we have built a robust business that is focused on delivering customer value and through our engineering expertise. I'm saying this because, like all of you in the room today, although we were first formed arguably at the peak of the first industrial revolution, today we're looking at the fourth industrial revolution, the hype of the digitalization wave, and everything this is bringing with it. And we're left in awe of this digitalization wave. We're asking ourselves existential questions such as, how do we fit into this? First, let's see what this digitalization wave is about. It's something typically super exciting. It's something that brings a lot of energy. It brings incredible technology and innovation, and of course, the millennial generation. But then there we are, the OEM that has been designing and manufacturing rotating equipment for over a century. How do we embark on this journey in a way that's still relevant to us, to our core business, to the products we make and the customers we serve, but also position ourselves as credible digital players? And that one existential question has been something that we've been trying to answer in setting our vision for our digital transformation moving forward. Also, another question that I'm sure a lot of you, especially in the R&D and innovation teams in your organizations, are being asked to do all the time is, how do you justify investment in digital? Because if you were to read research and listen to all the hype of the software companies, organizations that invest in digital are going to see a boost in their profits. Does that mean that if I can't put a compelling business case together with concrete ROI numbers to it, and I cannot convince my leadership team and my organization to invest in digital, am I going to be out of business? So the more we ask ourselves these very simple existential questions, the more we get a bit terrified by this digital wave, and we're losing track of all of that excitement. So we were left trying to find these answers for a while, and at the same time, we started noticing a lot of uptake from our customers, but also on our markets. So we started paying attention to more of the mega trends rather than the entire digitalization wave. And one of these mega trends says that, especially within the manufacturing sector of our society, in the very not so distant future, the use of pretty much every commodity in the world is going to move towards a servitization model. With that in mind, our vision started to become a bit more clear. This digital transformation journey isn't about changing who we are as an organization. Isn't about changing the products we've been making for over a century, nor about changing the customer value we serve, nor the markets we play. And in fact, we just stopped talking about a transformation process altogether. Because I think part of the thing that we are fearing the most was that very strong word. Instead, for us, it became about creating a vision for the digital evolution of the service that we can deliver in the environment around our products. And with that in mind, our vision started to take more and more shape. We were looking at how to better serve our customers, and our vision had to be defined based on customer value-driven KPIs. Let's talk about our customers. Why are we using them as an excuse to embark on this digital transformation journey? What is it that we're trying to fix for them? What is it that we're trying to deliver for them? Our customers, they operate in a very dynamic environment, driven by very complex markets, where, especially if you look at our installed equipment, they're always looking to maximize the value they can extract from existing installations. Their priority is to really maximize the value of their current plans, but at the same time to improve the operational efficiency of their equipment in a way that delivers efficiency increase, that supports energy savings and environmental regulations. As far as the new product is concerned, our customers' requests tend to align themselves around the same general theme of product availability and efficiency, product reliability, and ultimately, reduced total cost of ownership. So all in all, indeed, a complex and dynamic environment, but in all cases, in the background of all of this, the Howden equipment tends to operate as process critical in the customer operations. That means that whatever the reason, an undetected anomaly that leads to unplanned downtime of our equipment, with or without maintenance intervals, will almost always cause a costly shutdown. And at this point, in this digitalization wave, our customers turned to us for solutions as the OEMs that would help them operate their equipment and set maintenance strategies around this process-critical equipment that will become predictive. Looking at the other customer value-driven KPI, they're looking for our advice on how to best operate the equipment, how to operate it in a sustained way that always keeps it as close as possible to its best efficiency point. So we now have a pretty good understanding of what is it that we need to deliver against. Let's talk about the data strategy that became clear to us once we acknowledged these two value points that we're trying to deliver against. Today, most of our products leave our factories with a very sophisticated condition monitoring system in place that delivers data trending and delivers anomaly detection set against relatively straightforward thresholds against known values and design data. The way we support this data handling and analysis process is in a way that we're looking at events that either happened in the past or events as they're occurring just now. So our analysis of this data is always reactive. And what we can deliver in this way is always the root cause of events that, like I said, are either happening as we speak or happened in the past. Let's go back to the customer value points that we're trying to embed in our data strategy. The first, the predictive element of this. The only way we're going to advance the current state of affairs with our data handling process was to make one of two choices. We're either going to add more data to our customers' operation, which is a trend a lot of players in our segments and verticals are doing, or we're going to look at the data we have and try to analyze it more in a way that delivers against this value point of predictability. The only way we're going to make our data handling process predictable was by embedding it with some sort of artificial intelligence capabilities. And then we're left asking ourselves a really honest question. What are we going to do next? We know the end results, and we know what we have. How do we make our data gathering process one that's predictive? And this is the point where, for the first time in our data strategy setting, we shifted our focus from the customer value we're trying to enable to ourselves. We had a good look at ourselves as an organization, as talent, as core experience and internal processes, and decided to acknowledge, one, our core experience has been, for over 160 years, to design and manufacture efficient and reliable rotating equipment. Two, our core experience is not to develop artificial intelligence capabilities. So with that in mind, our data strategy became even more so clear, because at that point, our digital evolution was about also creating strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships whereby our core foundational block, our experience, would be further enhanced by IoT capabilities that are unique and that stand out. And the choice of ThingWorx Analytics as a platform to do that was an obvious one. With that, we have managed to access this incredible innovation platform that supports our data strategy and that adds that predictability element to our solution right out of the box. So we've achieved against one customer value point. We still need to come up with something to take us into the point where we can call ourselves prescriptive. Because when customers are looking for insight on how to best operate their equipment, when customers are looking for insight on corrective measurements on anomalies before they happen, that's when we prescribe the correct way of operating that equipment. And that's why we call it prescriptive. And to do that, we went into the dreaded digital twin concept. And I'm sure you probably heard this today 100 times, and before today another 100 times. And somehow, depending on who you're talking to, the definition of this concept tends to vary a bit. In the world of air and gas handling applications, the industry-wide and accepted definition of the digital twin is that of superimposing a digital profile that is built with using large volumes of historical data on real-time operational data as relayed by the sensors around the equipment level. The advantages of going with a concept like this is that you get a real-time assessment of the difference between your digital profile that's representative of this averaged over time performance as opposed to what you're doing right now, how you're operating your equipment right now. And looking at the difference between these two data sets is really powerful, especially for end users in the air and gas handling applications and the OEMs alike, because it gives you a strong insight into how to best operate the equipment, but also because it's a real-time dynamic adjusting model, it feeds back into your design process, it feeds back into your manufacturing process, and you see real-time benefits from doing that. This is not a new concept, at least not in our verticals. The idea of comparing some sort of average performance over time with sensor data has been around for a long time. The issue we had was that we were very limited by the available computer resources and by the data storage capabilities. That's why big data fell flat in the face. Today, we have access to incredible cloud technologies and cloud technologies that allow really powerful computation. So that barrier isn't there anymore, and this is what has made this concept relevant again. However, and this is something that we've noticed with our customers and competitors alike, there's a tendency to create digital twin models that are awfully complicated and very sophisticated, just in the need of gathering as much historical data and analyzing as much historical data as you have access to. And this in itself, it's making the digital twin concept a big data initiative all over again. And that comes with a few difficulties. First and foremost, because we're depending on historical data. We need this large volumes of historical data to create this performance that's accurate and representative for how the equipment actually runs. Now, in our world, in the world of air and gas handling applications, historical data is a resource if you have it. And what I mean by that is that we have a mix of applications where you either get really sophisticated and complex condition monitoring systems in place, in which case you have access to the historical data, but you also have applications that are not that heavily monitored, if at all. And then historical data is not an asset that you can lean on. Excuse me. Secondly, This had to happen. Secondly, when we do have access to historical data, what we have is large volumes of it. And we need to go back to all the way when that equipment ever started running to create an accurate digital profile. Now, some of our equipment has been running in the field, thank you, has been running in the field for decades. And we don't have historical data that runs over decades. And even if we would, the problem that that brings is that we now need to create huge data centers where we hire hundreds of data scientists that look at these incredible amounts of data to do what we call data tagging. So they're going to look out from whenever that compressor or a blower was first installed, what was good behavior, what was efficient behavior, what was a failure, what was not, and tag every single event. Completely unrealistic, at least for the way we're set as an operation. And thirdly, without stating the obvious, historical data as a resource only if you have it. But for new equipment that's just left our factory, we don't have historical data. So when we go and pitch our digital solutions and our digital innovation to our customers, we also need to say, and give us a few years to build a good digital twin model for you that it's really going to worth your time. Again, not the best of solutions. So at this point, we had to sit down and rethink this. We wanted to make the solution to be prescriptive. We wanted to embed this OEM knowledge in it. But the digital twin as it stands has a lot of limitations that for an organization like ours were simply very difficult to get over. And that's when we had one of those proverbial eureka moments. The problem is not with how we define the digital twin. In fact, having this ability to create a digital profile that you then compare to the sensor data and draw conclusions on how you should operate your equipment is a really powerful thing. The problem we have is the fact that we're relying on the existence of historical data to build this digital profile. What if we didn't? What if we just took the whole concept of historical data out of the equation altogether? And instead, we would go back to that one thing that I said we know how to do best, and that is to design and manufacture equipment. And we've been doing it, like I said, for over 160 years. If there's one thing we're good at, is that. So we started looking at building digital profiles that embed our design data, our most precious commodity, our IP, our entire knowledge of how to design rotating equipment that is efficient. And then what we've created is a purpose-built analytics digital twin model whereby this design data depicts a theoretical performance map of the equipment at the best efficiency point based on the intended operating conditions as it was designed. And also you have your sensor data that gives you operational data. By isolating and analyzing the difference between these two data sets, we have managed to really offer our customers an insight of how far away their current operation strategies for their equipment is from the best efficiency point. And also, we're enabling it with corrective actions to bring the operation of the equipment closer to that best efficiency point. And that's how the solution became prescriptive. Obviously, we were left in awe of our own find, and we were pretty pleased with the fact that our vision now was really well defined, and we felt like we are contributors to this, and we have something to bring to our customers that would be an immediate value enabler. We had a differentiated digital twin concept that really worked around our core capabilities. The next step was to complete the vision. Complete that vision where all we want to do is just increase the value we deliver to our customers through the service around our equipment. And we had a lot of fun as an engineering company looking at different presentation layers of how we can bring the ThingWorx analytics and the digital twin model to life. We used incredibly easy to pull together, purpose-built, very user-friendly dashboards, various forms of reporting layers, apps, but then we came across the augmented reality technology. You've heard it this morning. You don't need me to tell you how impressive this technology is. What I will tell you, though, is that it's definitely in the mainstream. And from a manufacturer point of view and an active player in all air and gas handling applications in the world, I can tell you it's definitely in the mainstream. And with resources showing something like AR investments hitting a $60 billion target by 2020, and with 2020 only 1 year away, you don't need me to tell you that what we're going to see from this technology in the next year is going to be at a dizzying pace. Again, everything you've heard this morning, it has tremendous benefits in our organization, and we've been able to really quantify and build a business case around using augmented reality and improving our design process overall. Our engineers feel like they understand more the product, the purpose of the product. They're not looking at a 2D representation drawing of the compressor anymore. It's all there in their physical reality and really easy to comprehend. Design improvements this way are even more easy now than they've ever been. Also, AR is something that we've really started to use intensively in our manufacturing organization, where we're using it for training purposes. And also with our field service engineers, we're now deploying a whole set of working instructions through AR that's displayed on Microsoft HoloLens. But the one differentiated take on AR is to do with the digital twin. And I like to say that because it rhymes. We use AR as the skin of our digital twin. And what I mean by that is we use AR as that presentation layer that brings all of that data from ThingWorx Analytics and our digital twin in manageable, easy to understand and consume imagery in front of our customers, and all in the most impactful way you can think of. Right there in front of your eyes with simple values. Simple and meaningful values that enable our customers to take action. There was a little bit of an insight this morning in Mike's note onto one of our customers' installations and an environmental application whereby our blowers are fitted with AR experience. And what I want to show you now, and hopefully we'll get the demo running, what I want to show you now is the actual AR experience that this customer of ours is looking and how they're using it, and how that has changed the way we manage that customer relationship. So I'm going to grab my iPad. Now, there's a number of things that could go wrong, so bear with me. And what I'm going to do is what our customers typically do with a phone or an iPad or the HoloLens is scan a barcode. Now, the point of me scanning this off the floor is that I'm actually going to bring an imagery of the actual product to scale on stage. Otherwise, I would have done it on the table. So I'm placing the Vuforia View app straight on the barcode, and now I'm going to walk slowly back to place the blower on the stage. And what you're seeing now, I'm just going to go to this corner and bear with me and try not to get dizzy. What you're seeing here is a full-scale AR experience of a Howden turbo blower that is currently running in an environmental installation somewhere in Europe. We're being very considerate to our customers. We're keeping their data protected. So where you see these text labels is where our customers would see data from ThingWorx Analytics superimposed on our digital twin model. Now, all of the operators in this customer's site will have access to this AR experience. And the value that the data points and the app are always reflective of the real-time assessment. Let's imagine I am the operator of this blower, and where the text label reads gear, I'm actually seeing ThingWorx Analytics and my digital twin model working together to tell me that the recent change in operating conditions has actually determined a drop in the remaining bearing life in this blower. Now, as an operator, I'm going to go to my control panel. And again, I don't need to be in the control room to do this. I could be at home over my breakfast bar and diagnose the problem that has caused this bearing failure or potential bearing failure. And what I see right now on the control panel is a real-time display of the operational data. Say I am now an experienced operator and I fully accept the predictions from my system. What I'm going to do is try to find out more about this blower. So I now have access to meaningful design data that typically is either locked away in a drawer or a phone call away in 3 weeks in an email from the Howden engineering office. And what you see here is one example of the design data that can be accessed this way. We would provide the design drawings, we would provide the design manuals, the CAD models, and everything that constitutes design data. And then let's see here. So there is an anomaly about to happen, and this operator wants to see, is this happening within recommended maintenance intervals, or is this outside of maintenance intervals? So what this does is uploading all of the service history that the Howden service engineers have ever carried out on this piece of equipment in a way that is super easy to access and really allows our customers to plan ahead. Finally, let's assume this bearing, it's an easy enough component to retrofit. And they've asked about the availability of the Howden service engineer to do it, but there's no one in the proximity within the immediate few days. What they would do is get their HoloLens out and follow a repair sequence that we ourselves in the Howden engineering office have put together to instruct them step by step how to do that repair sequence. Because it's an AR experience that is put together by the Howden engineering team, it doesn't really matter who carries out this repair sequence. It would still have our warranty on it. So this is a really impactful way to show that AR can be a lot more than what we think it is. We are way past thinking it's a cool gimmick toy that impresses people at exhibitions. AR is an incredible technology. It's an incredible technology. It's an incredible technology that is central to our vision for digital evolution because we're focused on transforming customer value. And what we've seen with AR is that we're bringing all of our core experience, all of our core support into a way that's really impactful and into a way that really enhances their experience of owning the Howden equipment. With that, hopefully no more accidents. I thank you all for your attention, and I'm looking forward to talking to you in the hall. Thank you very much.
Maria, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Maria, thank you very much for sharing.
My pleasure.
It's true that this morning we heard from PTC leadership on all of the things that technology can do. It's a completely different experience to hear from a practitioner like yourself, someone who is using technology from PTC and from other companies like Microsoft, et cetera, to create business value for your company and for your customers. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you very much. Now, we have a few moments before we break for the evening reception, so maybe we'll just take a few minutes and do a little question and answer. I'm sure there's, you shared a lot of great information during your presentation, but it brought to mind a handful of questions for me as I was listening. So First, first I should acknowledge that I'm glad we did not have any unplanned downtime with the demo, first and foremost. So thanks to the technical team for helping us with that. But you mentioned, as I was listening, and of course we've spoken before this, that there were sort of 3 eureka moments during your journey of digital transformation. The first of which was to maybe not think of it as digital transformation, but to think of it as a journey or as an evolution, as you mentioned. And that one of the things that you needed to do or you recognized as a eureka moment there was to stop using some of the industry jargon in trying to get your leadership or really everybody in the company on board. Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about how it was that you shifted from, we're going to talk just about the technology and we're going to talk more about how it is that we just apply some of that technology to adding value to our customers. Yeah.
It was a lot of self-study as an organization. We are genuinely proud of our heritage. We have introduced a lot of technical innovations to the world, and like I said, we came about at the peak of the first industrial revolution, and I'm really proud of that. Anything that we were going to do with digital could have not and should have not changed that. That's who we are as an organization, and there's a reason for why we have such a huge install base throughout the world that is at the heart of pretty much every air and gas handling application. And that's how the concept of, let's not talk about how we're going to transform ourselves came about. Let's just talk about how can we involve what we do with our products in a way that really nails customer value down in a differentiated way, in a way that we make sure we get repeat business. And from that working backwards, the vision became a lot clearer because it wasn't a threat to us anymore. Sure. It was actually a natural evolution of our organization and a natural evolution of what we can do for our customers.
Great. Maybe the second eureka moment that I heard in your presentation that we had talked about before was the notion that, the dreaded digital twin, and that you didn't necessarily need historical data to create the digital twin. And my question to you would be, did this make you popular with your former friends in R&D, who, of course, were the source of this great design data? Or did you have to coax them along to sort of get them on board with supporting this notion?
So, disclaimer, that concept came about when I was still in charge of R&D. Okay. So it was an easy one to sell. It makes sense. The way we supply products into the markets for our customers, it's almost on a custom-made selection, if you like. That involves a lot of design data handling. We're always working with different gas properties, and that, of course, changes the duty of the equipment that we can offer. It had to be the design data. And the more we talked about it with our customers, the more we're reassured by that approach, because there's a reason for why some of these operations don't have historical data. It's not deemed important. And we weren't going to go in and start to pitch condition monitoring systems. That's not what our evolution was going to be. So why not offer them our precious commodity? And that's now embedded in this digital twin. And especially in those operations, in those customer plants where there's not a lot of condition monitoring in place, knowing how far away from the most efficient point you're operating your equipment, knowing how to correct that operation to bring it closer to it, or if you can't because your duty is your duty, knowing the exact impact it's going to have on the integrity of your system is what enables value, not so much the existence of historical data.
Sure. Great. And then if I think about maybe the third eureka moment, again, that I heard in the presentation and we talked about a little bit, is that augmented reality, and you sort of closed with this, is really a tool that brings you closer to your customers, gives you a completely new channel of communication and a new way to build a relationship with your customer and create value for them. And so I guess the question is, when you travel the world and you share these kinds of demonstrations with your customers, are they skeptical? Are they excited to see it? What kind of reaction do you tend to get?
I am yet to see somebody that's skeptical, because usually when we show these demos, we actually show them with real data. And the fact that this AR experience is now interactive and you have access to data to the OEM data that before, of course you had access to it, but it wasn't an easy task to get, nor it was easy to consume. A design manual can have anything between 100 and 400 pages. And everything now is uploaded in this presentation layer that makes the consumption of the data really easy. Even the older generations are really blown away by this, because what we're doing is actually creating that full immersive end-to-end customer experience. And we're not only enhancing their understanding of the equipment, but we're enhancing the overall experience of owning an equipment from Howden.
So maybe just time for two other questions. First would be maybe in your role as a leader of creating data-driven advantage. For those in the audience that might be thinking about this kind of initiative, should they be thinking about this as needing to be enterprise-wide by definition, or could they think about initiating these kinds of programs either on a product line basis or within a certain function like service?
Yeah. Start small and stay agile. If this or a strategy, data strategy similar to this only suits one part of your business, then that's what you should focus on. I come from an environment where new product development cycles are very long, are obviously time consuming, but also you have to go through a lot of iterations. Completely counterproductive when it comes to everything to do with digital. So the only piece of advice I have, start small and stay agile. You'll find yourself going through cycles of development at a pace that will blow you away.
And in some ways you answered, I think, another question that might be on people's minds, which is you're not through your journey yet, but you've started your journey. You took a few first steps and now you're deep into it. If somebody is thinking about starting their journey, is there maybe one piece of advice that you would give? I mean, you just shared start small and be agile, which I think is great advice for sure. But maybe there was some obstacle that you faced along the way early on in your journey that you would say, oh, you should expect this to happen to you, and this is how I managed to overcome that particular obstacle. Any words of wisdom for the crowd?
I would say when you're looking to set a vision for an organization or a part of your organization, make sure it doesn't make people think you're going to transform the world. And that's where we started talking about evolution. And the other thing I would say, I didn't mention this by accident during the keynote, this digitalization wave has brought with it the millennials and the way they talk and the way they behave, where everything is done on a phone and everything is done at a speed that some of us cannot understand. I found it particularly challenging slowing down and explain this to an organization that is not data inherent. So when you talk about digitalization, when you talk about AR, when you talk about industrial Internet of Things, don't just assume people know what you're talking about. Drop the jargon. Don't try to sound Silicon Valley, and look for a vision that is complementary to what you already do.
Great, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming and thanking Dr. Maria Wilson.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.